Can you give Eubank a message? You haven't come to each other yet.
I'm not doing this. Chris, I salute you, mate, and you know, well done for winning the first fight. It takes two to tango. We both delivered. We both done what we needed to do, and I'm gonna iron you out second time round.
You know, I told him the other day, maybe it was yesterday or the day before. I said, man, once you get past this fight and you dominate this fight, they can't deny you fighting for a world title. You know, at 160, I believe he can.
Honestly, this guy has zero respect for anything, and I hope people can see through it. Some will, some won't. But if you can't see them, I mean, that's a lot of what happened up there was just wrong. So listen, we go to work and we're in to win the fight. It's going to be different.
Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. collided once again, this time not in the ring, but live on Instagram, where words became weapons and silence carried more threat than shouting ever could. The tension between them was thick, the history undeniable. This wasn't casual trash talk, it was personal. Years of
yet, but in which ways can you be better, do you think?
Just more disciplined. It's a matter of sticking to the tactics and the game plan rather than me going in there and
rivalry, controversy, and pride boiled beneath the surface as both men stared through their screens like it was the opening bell. Ben spoke first, his voice cold but steady, promising a systematic beating for Eubank. There was no bravado, no yelling, just quiet menace.
But the fight, once that bell goes, I think will be even better than the first one because we know each other now. So we know the weaknesses, we know the strengths. It could be a whole new fight, or it could be a war from round one again. So you guys are gonna have to wait and see.
His calm delivery felt more dangerous than rage. Every word dripped with conviction, hinting at unfinished business and a hunger that hadn't dimmed since their last meeting. His eyes told the story of a man who'd replayed that night 1,000 times, each replay sharpening his intent. He wasn't just coming to fight, he was coming to dismantle.
Listen, I don't like Chris, I don't have to like him, but no one's out to hurt anybody here, you know, and it's a shame that he lives in that world of paranoia where he genuinely believes that anybody's out to get him because nobody really is. And it's for his toenail, I couldn't care less about his toenail. You know, like, bro, like, I don't care.
Eubank Jr., in contrast, responded with composed precision. His tone wasn't arrogant, it was assured. Every syllable carried the confidence of a man who has studied his rival inside and out. Eubank spoke like a tactician preparing for war, someone who knows the rhythm of the battlefield and exactly how much damage it takes to end a rivalry. There was
for me to ask you, but I'm going to ask it anyway, Bomac. Is there any way you can see that Conor Benn beats your guy?
No. I can't, for the simple fact that it's hard to beat the guy that already didn't beat you. I mean, I can see that Chris is beating him at everything. The press conference, the stare downs, the fight. To me, he got his number, you know? And I think he's gonna be in a better position coming into this next fight because Chris knows what to expect out of him.
No bluff. No ego, just quiet control, but Ben refused to yield to the psychological warfare. His frustration spilled through the screen, firing verbal jabs aimed at Eubank's mindset. He painted Chris as paranoid, detached, and trapped within his own bubble. You're not ready.
What does it do to Conor Benn's career trajectory if he does lose again?
Look, I mean, you never want back-to-back defeats. Obviously, we know the future is at 147. We've got Lewis Crocker here, you know, there's a shot at the world title. But losing is a disaster for Conor. Yeah, I can dress it up to you and say, it's up at middleweight, it doesn't really matter, now we go. But that's not what Conor Benn's about. You see a different Conor Benn in there today because all he's focused on is the performance and the fight and getting the victory on that.
For me, Ben insisted, the calm in his tone fading into defiance. Yet beneath the surface, emotion flickered dangerously. And in boxing, emotion can be both weapon and weakness. Some believe that Ben's irritation might just play right into Eubank's steady surgical approach. That's...
Yeah, like I say, the fight wasn't a letdown because it was a good fight. But as an event, you won't get a better event than that. And they'll have to go some, actually, to surpass that or even equal that. Let's just hope they get the same turnout in terms of the numbers. People going through the live gate and watching that fight because it was a great event. There's no ifs, buts or maybes. You won't get world title fights that actually are a better event.
Exactly where Eubank's trainer, stepped in, breaking down the dynamic with cold analysis. He made it clear that from the mind games to the press conferences, Eubank was simply ahead. Bokic didn't sugarcoat it. He believed Benn's chances were slim.
168, he ain't coming back down to 160, so it's got a very short lifespan, this rematch. It's got to be done, the sooner the better.
Experience decides fights like this, he said confidently, and Chris has it in every department. His belief wasn't built on hype, it was rooted in preparation. Bokic's tone was the voice of a man who's seen enough wars to know when the smarter fighter holds the edge. Eddie Hearn, watching the buildup from the promoter's chair, laid out the stakes in brutal honesty. Another loss, he said, and it could derail Conor Benn's entire career. There was no hiding behind middleweight talk or excuses. For Benn, this wasn't just another fight, it was survival. Hearn spoke with the weight of expectation pressing on his fighter's shoulders.
We don't want the fight going 12 rounds. So that means we have to, the best chance of that is to employ a different strategy, have different tactics, have a different mindset on what it is we need to do with Conor Benn in that ring. That's why we brought Bomac in.
The pressure wasn't abstract, it was real, tangible. Benn wasn't fighting only Eubank Jr., he was fighting the doubt of the public, the whispers of the past, and the fear of becoming a what-if story. Former world champion Duke McKenzie echoed that sentiment, reminding fans how electric the first event had been. The rivalry, the atmosphere, the sheer theater of it all. It had everything, he said. Drama, chaos, brilliance. But he warned that the bigger the stage, the heavier the expectation. Both men now carry the burden of recreating that same magic, except this time.
Do you think Conor Benn will be better in the second fight?
Yes,
Does that mean that you think that by him being better and there's no more left from Chris Eubank, that Conor Benn's able to bridge the gap, get an outcome in his second fight?
Without a doubt.
You do?
He couldn't have done any more. If he could have knocked out Conor in that fight, he would have done.
Yeah.
He just couldn't get rid of him. And Conor stuck it. So regardless of him being surprised that Conor stuck it out a lot more, he couldn't get rid of it.
The stakes have tripled. Pride, reputation, and career legacy are all on the line. Tony Bellew, as always, didn't mince his words. Timing matters, he said. If the rematch happens soon, it favors Benn. He's younger, quicker to recover. Yet even Bellew couldn't dismiss Eubank's experience and adaptability. Time and again, Eubank has shown that when the lights burn brightest, his composure never cracks. He's the kind of fighter who thrives when others crumble. And now, Eubank Jr. has peeled back the curtain on his tactical plans. This rematch, he said, isn't about points, it's about domination.
So I think he'll get a lot more people wanting to tune into that fight, and obviously we're going to win the next fight. And but yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to getting Conor Benn ready to fight, and it's going to be historic.
His new partnership with Brian Bomac McIntyre signals a complete transformation in approach. Eubank isn't looking to outbox Benn, he's looking to break him down methodically. His words carried the precision of a man who has turned his anger into calculation. Bringing in Bomac wasn't just a training decision, it was a declaration of war. "I'm not here for redemption," Eubank said. "I'm here for closure." That line alone revealed everything about his mindset. Yet not everyone is convinced the evolution will be enough. Johnny Nelson, veteran analyst and former cruiserweight champion, offered a thoughtful counterpoint. He wondered aloud.
And I don't think at this stage Eubank can do a lot more else. He'll try and do what he did, on fight night. It's whether he can go to the well again. I don't think so. If the fight becomes as hard and if it has the pace and ferocity of a first fight, I'd be very surprised and I'd be amazed if Eubank can do all that again.
Whether Eubank might have already peaked, every fighter has that defining moment, Nelson said. Maybe Chris has already had his, but he also credited Benn's resilience, the way he absorbs punishment and keeps advancing. To Nelson, the rematch isn't a foregone conclusion. If Benn truly has improved, If he sharpened his timing and control, the gap might narrow faster than expected. Still, he cautioned, in boxing, one clean shot can flip the story. His realism cut through the noise, a reminder that in this sport, hype means nothing once the bell rings. Meanwhile, inside Benn's camp, Tony Sims exudes quiet confidence. There's no bluster, no theatrics, just belief. Sims speaks like a man who's seen something special in training, something...
I think Eubank Jr., if he gets this win, and there's a new lease of life maybe under Bomac, 2026, maybe finally he could become a world champion. But he's got to get past Conor Benn first, and Conor Benn, not just hungry for revenge, he believes he can win this because of what happened first time round, because he went 12 rounds at middleweight, up in class, after a long layoff. Some people fancy Benn in this.
The world hasn't yet noticed. This isn't about revenge, he said. It's about execution. To him, Benn is not fueled by emotion, but guided by precision. He calls the fight historic, not as hype, but as certainty. His tone carries the assurance of a strategist who's watched his fighter evolve into something sharper, more composed, more dangerous. The team around Benn genuinely believes they've cracked the formula that can finally tilt the balance. Whether it's conviction or mind games, they're marching into this rematch with unshakable belief in victory. Across the aisle, trainer Dave Coldwell sees things differently. Known for his honesty, Coldwell offered a sobering take. The question isn't whether Chris can win, he said. It's whether his body can hold up. Coldwell's tone carried respect but also realism. Fighters age, reflexes fade, recovery slows. He suggested that the intensity of their first encounter might have taken more out of Eubank than anyone realizes, but he stopped short of writing him off. You can never count out a...
Conor is a far better fighter than Chris Eubank Jr. is a boxer. Technically, yeah. And that's the problem that Chris Eubank Jr. is having. He's got this thing in his mind. He's a masterful boxer. No, you're not. No. I'm sorry, no, you're not.
A man built on grit and self-belief, Coldwell said. Eubank's proven people wrong before, and he might just do it again. Then came Dave Allen, raising an issue that often gets buried beneath the trash talk. The rehydration clause. Allen's concern wasn't only technical, it was moral. These clauses, he explained, can create dangerous imbalances. Fighters cut too much weight, and their sharpness, endurance, even punch resistance, everything suffers. For Eubank Jr., that's not the theory, it's experience. He's fought under those conditions before, and the toll was clear. Allen's point resonated. In a sport where pride and science collide, sometimes the scale is the most brutal opponent of all. The rematch isn't just a grudge, it's a test of fairness, physiology, and endurance. Tony Bellew, always the straight talker, added another layer to the narrative. He doesn't flatter, he dissects. The difference between them isn't heart, Bellew said, it's craft.
They said I'm too old, coach. They said I don't want it anymore. They said I'm washed up.
Hey, they gonna find out.
In his eyes, Benn is the sharper technician, cleaner fundamentals, crisper combination. Eubank, on the other hand, fights on instinct and will, but that, Bellew argued, is exactly where the intrigue lies. He even called Eubank delusional for believing he's a masterful boxer, yet in the same breath, he admitted that this very self-belief is what makes Eubank dangerous. It's what carried him through wars others couldn't survive. Bellew's critique wasn't just analysis, it was a challenge. Sometimes, he said, the man who refuses to break writes his own ending. On November 15th, we'll find out whether Bellew's words expose Eubank's limits or ignite the fire that makes him unstoppable. Trainer Bo McIntyre echoed that confidence, his tone seasoned by decades in the game. Having trained champions and dissected opponents like chess pieces, McIntyre didn't just predict a win for Eubank,
and I think he's already had lawyers for his scenario, for his situation. They've represented him. I did read briefly earlier that he did have representation from a legal firm.
Predicted an easier one. To him, boxing is more mental than physical. Once a fighter's broken, he said, that scar never heals. In McIntyre's eyes, Eubank already lives rent-free inside Benn's head. Every time Benn envisions fight night, he relives flashes of the last loss, the frustration, the unanswered questions. That, McIntyre argued, gives Eubank control before the first punch even lands. Chris knows when to attack, and when to punish. He added, Benn's aggression will betray him again. To McIntyre, it's not arrogance, it's a Benn's fire burns too hot, he said. Eubank will extinguish it with patience and precision, but outside the ring, another storm brews. Gareth A. Davies, one of boxing's most respected journalists, brought focus to the distractions surrounding Benn. The noise hasn't gone away, he said. The legal issues, the headlines, it all lingers. For any fighter, that kind of weight can erode focus. Every training session becomes not just physical conditioning, but a fight against doubt. Benn insists the past is behind him, but Davies reminds us that reputations, once cracked, take time to make. Meanwhile, Eubank Jr. thrives amid chaos. He's built for it. Criticism doesn't weaken him, it fuels him. While Benn fights to clear his name, Eubank fights to cement his. The contrast couldn't be starker. One man wrestling with external shadows, the other singularly focused on legacy. The courtroom may be silent, Davies concluded, but the verdict will be delivered in punches. As November 15th draws closer, the tension reaches boiling point. Eubank Jr. steps into the rematch rebuilt, redefined under Bowick's system, his confidence sharpened like a blade. He's the veteran who's been humbled, who's rebuilt himself from the inside out, now staring at the chance to close a chapter for good. Across from him stands Conor Benn, defiant, driven and desperate to silence every lingering doubt. This is more than a fight, it's pride versus validation, legacy versus redemption. Every jab, every counter, every exchange will echo with years of rivalry and resentment. And when the final bell rings, only truth will remain. On November 15th, there will be no excuses, only one man will rise. So the question remains, who are you backing this time? The reborn Chris Eubank Jr. or the relentless Conor Benn?